Well, it's Bob Pandolfo, and I wanted to do this video the other day about the Preakness, but we had to travel quite a ways for a wedding this weekend, so I didn't have time to do it. But I'm just going to do a little wrap up on the Preakness. So the horse that here's my picks. So I picked Creative Minister, Early Voting Second, Epicenter, and then Secret Oath. And if you look at, somebody asks you, well, how come you don't like Epicenter? Isn't he the best horse? And so, those of you who watched my video after the Derby, I did not put Epicenter on my list of horses to watch out of that race because he had a perfect trip and he raced okay, but he really had no excuse. I mean, he got beat by an 80-1 shot. And if you look at my comments here, I say here, looks like the one to beat, but I don't think that he's worth a short price because there are a few lightly raced horses that could move forward here. And it's not like Epicenter has run any sensational times or figures. So I really thought it was, between the 2 and the 5. I went for the better price, Creative Minister, but I wanted to show something here on the PPs. All right, so let's start with Epicenter. And this is one of the things I mentioned after the Derby. I said, Epicenter, besides the fact that he got a really nice trip and he couldn't win. I mentioned that he's raced 4 times already this year. Coming into the Preakness, and he's raced 7 times, so he has a good foundation. And that's the thing. If you look at his last 3 races, the Risen Star, the Louisiana Derby, and the Kentucky Derby, basically ran the same race. You look at the speed figures, 98, 101, 101. The speed figures are not exact science. So these are basically, he ran the same race. So he's very consistent, which is good. I mean, that's why he's a good racehorse. But there was no reason to think that he would move forward off this race. He's doing his best. And he's already raced 4 times this year, and he has a pretty good foundation. So, I expected him in the Preakness to run like a 101, 100, 99, 101, somewhere, basically the same race he ran here. The problem is that you have horses that are eligible to improve. This horse only raced 3 times, Creative Minister. And his speed figure jumped last time to a 101. So you'd have to figure, well, maybe he'll run even better in the Preakness. He only ran 3 times, right? He's a well-bred, he's a nicely bred horse. And then, you look at another horse, Early Voting. Now, this is a horse that really looked like he had a big shot here. You can see he ran, again, he proved every time. Now, this speed figure here, 111, I think is kind of probably not quite, it might be a little exaggerated, but it depends who you look at. Time Form gave him a good figure, and now Beyer didn't give him a real good figure out of the wood. But obviously, it was a good race. I mean, 147.4 at Aqueduct that time of year is a good time. So I don't know how high the speed figure should be, but it's definitely better than a 101, that's for sure. So he already ran faster than the favorite in this race, which is another reason why Epicenter wasn't a good favorite. But again, he's only raced 3 times, and this was only his 3rd start as a 3-year-old. So he was eligible to move forward. He had a few works since his last race. So that's the thing. You got to look at that. Because a few people said to me, well, why don't you like Epicenter? Isn't he the best horse? And you have to be careful in these races with these young horses. You have to kind of project, who's going to improve. And you had 2 well-bred horses here that only raced 3 times. Some of the other horses, had raced much more and didn't, like this horse Skippy, he's already raced 9 times. There's no reason to believe him he's going to improve that much. You know what I mean? So anyway, these are things you have to look at. And and I was not high on Epicenter. I thought he had a shot, but you don't want to bet heavy favorites like this when there are horses in the race that are eligible to step up because they're lightly raced, well-bred horses that are improving, and it showed that they're improving. Early Voting. This horse 86, 91, 111. And then Chad Brown skipped the Derby. I think he probably, because Chad Brown, I'm sure, thought this figure was legit and figured he might bounce. So if he came back in the Derby. Another thing too is, this race was really interesting because if you look at his late pace figure here, This horse ran a 111 late pace figure in a mile and an eighth race in his third lifetime start after setting the pace, right? So that was a really solid effort. In fact, on my power form, not power form, sorry, on my on my power pace handicapping, you can see that if you rank them on speed figures, they're very close. But early voting does have the advantage overall. He has the highest adjusted pace, the highest adjusted late, and the figure, and that's because he ran that strong last quarter there. These numbers are in my systems are based on averages, but he also had a 90 last quarter in his first start. But I just wanted to mention that that's the thing you got to watch about in these races, and with favorites in general too. I'm not going to back a favorite unless it's like lays over the field, and certainly Epicenter didn't lay over this field at all. So he was not a good favorite. He just wasn't. Anyway, that'll do it for the video. Remember to click on my subscribe button. There's no cost or anything. And thanks for listening.